It was a stormy evening in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, and the air was thick with tension. Ibrahim Traoré, the president of this fragile nation, sat in his office at the presidential palace, surrounded by confidential documents that could shape the future of his country. His face was weary, yet determined. The country's security was hanging by a thread, and every decision felt like a heavy burden. As the leader, every action had consequences, and every misstep could be costly, not just for him, but for the future of his people. Suddenly, the door creaked open. It was Marie, his trusted assistant, carrying a sealed envelope. Her face was grim, and Ibrahim could sense that something was wrong. She handed him the envelope without saying a word. The silence between them was deafening. Ibrahim's fingers trembled slightly as he opened the envelope, revealing a report that sent a shock through his body. The document detailed a plot to overthrow him, a coup. Among the names listed in the report, one stood out like a beacon of betrayal. Amadou Diallo, his childhood friend, the man who had stood by him during his darkest days, the brother he had trusted with his life. Ibrahim's heart sank. He couldn't believe it. His mind raced with memories of their shared youth, of the days when they dreamed together of a brighter future for Burkina Faso. He muttered to himself, "That can't be true." But deep down, he knew. The evidence was irrefutable. His old friend, the man he had once trusted above all others, was now involved in plotting against him. Ibrahim's head spun. How had it come to this? Was there no loyalty left in this world? Marie stood quietly by, sensing the emotional turmoil that was tearing through him. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but firm. "Mr. President, what should we do? Should we mobilize the security forces?" Ibrahim's eyes never left the report. He shook his head slowly. "Number I will handle this myself." And so, the journey began. Ibrahim decided to travel alone to Bobo Dioulasso, where Amadou was allegedly hiding, coordinating the coup with others. His generals and security advisors warned against it, urging him to send a team of armed soldiers. But Ibrahim refused. This was personal. He would not let his leadership be defined by force. He would confront his old friend not as an enemy, but as a brother. The drive to Bobo Dioulasso was long and silent. Ibrahim's mind was consumed with memories of the past, the days when he and Amadou had fought side by side, when they had dreamed of a peaceful, prosperous Burkina Faso. How had they ended up here, on opposite sides of a conflict that threatened to tear apart everything they had built? Upon reaching Bobo Dioulasso, Ibrahim made his way to a modest house on the outskirts of the city. This was where Amadou had last been seen. When he knocked on the door, it opened to reveal a tall, thin man in simple clothes. Amadou. His face was filled with surprise and confusion at the sight of his old friend. "Ibrahim," Amadou said, his voice filled with disbelief. "What are you doing here?" Ibrahim looked at him for a long moment, searching his eyes for the man he had once known so well. Then finally he spoke, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I could ask you the same question, my brother. Why are you doing this?" Amadou hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. He motioned for Ibrahim to enter, and they sat together in a small room, the walls adorned with old photographs, one of them as young men, laughing and carefree. Ibrahim's heart ached as he gazed at the image. How had it all gone so wrong? "You know why I'm doing this," Amadou said, breaking the silence. "Our people are suffering, Ibrahim. You're so caught up in the politics of running the country that you've forgotten the people you swore to serve. They need change." Ibrahim shook his head, frustration building within him. "I never forgot the people, Amadou. I grew up with them, just like you. But overthrowing the government won't solve anything. It will only make things worse. We've already been through too much to let this country slip into chaos again." Amadou's eyes dropped to the floor, torn between his convictions and the friendship he still felt for Ibrahim. "I just wanted to help," he whispered, his voice shaking. "But no one listens to me. Not even you." Ibrahim reached out, placing a hand on Amadou's shoulder. "If you want to help, then stand by me. Together, we can do more than any uprising ever could." For a moment, the room was silent. Amadou's tears began to fall, the weight of his decisions crashing down on him. "I was wrong," he admitted, his voice barely audible. "But can I still fix this?" Ibrahim nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. Yes, my brother. We all make mistakes. The important thing is what we do after we recognize them. The sun had set by the time Ibrahim returned to the presidential palace in Ouagadougou. He was exhausted, emotionally and physically. His conversation with Amadou had left him shaken, but he knew what he had to do. The decision ahead of him was not an easy one, and he understood that whatever path he chose would have consequences. Some would call him weak, others would call him compassionate, but Ibrahim was determined to follow his heart. The meeting room was tense when Ibrahim entered. His generals and ministers were gathered, their faces anxious. They had been waiting for news about what had transpired in Bobo Dioulasso. General Kabor was the first to speak. "Mr. President," he said cautiously, "what happened there? Should we arrest the conspirators?" Ibrahim paused, taking a deep breath before answering. "Amadou confessed to being involved in the plot," he said quietly, "but he wasn't acting out of personal ambition. He genuinely believed he was helping our people." The room fell silent. No one knew what to say. Most had expected Ibrahim to take a hard stance, to punish those who had plotted against him. But instead, he was speaking of Amadou with compassion, as if he were a brother who had simply lost his way. "I've known Amadou since we were children," Ibrahim continued, his voice thick with emotion. "He was one of the first to believe in me when I dreamed of changing this country. I can't just dismiss him as an enemy." The Minister of Justice spoke up, his voice filled with concern. "Mr. President, this could be seen as weakness. If you spare Amadou, others may see this as an opening for future betrayal." Ibrahim nodded thoughtfully. He understood the gravity of the situation. "I understand your concerns, but we must remember that leadership isn't just about punishing mistakes. It's about building bridges, not walls." After a long pause, Ibrahim made his decision. "Amadou will be removed from his government position, but I'm not going to arrest him. I'm sending him to work directly with the rural communities. There he can make amends and help build the country in a different way." The ministers and generals exchanged uncertain glances. Some were pleased with Ibrahim's compassion, while others were worried about the political consequences. But Ibrahim was resolute. He knew that sometimes the hardest decisions were the right ones. The morning after Ibrahim Traoré's difficult decision, the palace was still quiet, almost as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting for the outcome. The sun had barely begun to rise over Ouagadougou, casting a soft light through the grand windows of the presidential palace. Ibrahim stood alone in his office, gazing out at the landscape below. His mind was heavy, the weight of his choices pressing against his chest. The decision he had made regarding Amadou had not been an easy one. In many ways, it was a test not only of his leadership, but of his own humanity. He had chosen forgiveness, a path that would undoubtedly be questioned by his closest advisors and even the people of Burkina Faso. Yet in his heart, Ibrahim knew it was the right thing to do. Amadou, his childhood friend, had been sent away from the government, not as a punishment, but as a chance to rebuild, to reconnect with the people he had once promised to serve. He would now work directly with rural communities, where his skills could make a difference. It wasn't an easy task, and Ibrahim knew that sending Amadou into the heart of the country's struggles could either help him redeem himself or push him deeper into resentment. Ibrahim's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. The door to his office opened, and in walked Marie, his trusted assistant. She was holding a small file in her hands, but it was her expression that caught Ibrahim's attention. She looked concerned, as if there was something important on her mind. "Mr. President," Marie began, her voice calm but with a hint of urgency, "Amadou is here. He's come to speak with you." Ibrahim's heart skipped a beat. He had been expecting this, but he wasn't quite prepared for the emotions it stirred in him. He had made his decision, but now he would have to face the consequences of it. With a silent nod, Ibrahim motioned for her to let Amadou in. A moment later, Amadou entered the room. His face was a mixture of apprehension and humility. He was no longer the confident man Ibrahim had once known. Instead, there was a quiet sadness in his eyes, a weight that had settled there after the events of the past few days. He stood before Ibrahim, not with the arrogance of a man who thought he had all the answers, but with the vulnerability of someone who had lost his way and was now trying to find it again. "Ibrahim," Amadou said, his voice shaky, "I don't know if I deserve your trust after everything I've done." The words hit Ibrahim like a blow. He had known Amadou since they were children. They had shared laughter, dreams, and even hardships. To see his friend standing there, so broken and lost, stirred something deep within Ibrahim's heart. It was not anger or resentment, but a deep sense of compassion. This man, who had once been like a brother to him, had strayed from the path, but Ibrahim knew that he had the capacity to change. "No one is automatically trustworthy, my brother," Ibrahim said, his voice steady and kind, "but everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves again." Amadou's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, Ibrahim thought he might break down completely. He reached out and placed a hand on Amadou's shoulder, a simple gesture of reassurance, one that spoke volumes more than any words could. It was a reminder that despite the betrayal, despite the chaos, there was still a bond between them, one that could not be broken by politics or power struggles. "I know I've made mistakes," Amadou whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "But I want to make things right. I can't undo what I've done, but I want to try." Ibrahim nodded, understanding the sincerity in his friend's words. "You have the chance now, Amadou. Not as a leader in the government, but as a man who can make a real difference in the lives of the people who need it most." Amadou's face softened, the weight of his past actions beginning to lift, if only slightly. He had always believed in helping the people of Burkina Faso, but somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. Now he had been given a chance to rediscover that purpose, to help in a way that was grounded in compassion, not power. "I won't fail you, Ibrahim," Amadou said, his voice more determined now. "I'll do whatever it takes to make up for what I've done." Ibrahim smiled, a sense of peace settling over him. He had made the right choice, even if it was the harder one. "I know you will, my brother. But remember, redemption is a long road. It's not about proving anything to me. It's about proving to yourself that you can still be the man I knew you to be." With that, Amadou left the palace, his future uncertain, but filled with a new sense of purpose. Ibrahim watched him go, feeling a strange mixture of hope and sadness. He knew that this was only the beginning of a long journey for his old friend, but he also knew that sometimes the hardest path was the one that led to the greatest rewards. Later that day, Ibrahim went to visit a rural village just outside Ouagadougou. The air was heavy with the smell of earth and the sounds of daily life. Children playing, people working in the fields. The hum of life continuing despite the political turmoil that had plagued the country for so long. Ibrahim walked through the village, speaking with the people, listening to their concerns. He knew that true leadership wasn't just about sitting in an office, making decisions from afar. It was about understanding the struggles of the people and working alongside them to build a better future. In one of the smaller homes, he met Fatou, a woman whose husband had been killed in a previous conflict. She was holding a photograph of him, her eyes filled with grief but also with determination. "Mr. President," she said, her voice trembling, "I just want my children to grow up in peace. We don't need riches, just security." Ibrahim felt a lump form in his throat. This was why he fought. This was why he had chosen the path of forgiveness. "You have my word, Fatou," he said, his voice firm with conviction. "We will do everything we can to ensure your children have the future they deserve." As Ibrahim left the village, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenges were far from over, but he knew that as long as he remained true to his values, listening to the people, offering second chances, and leading with compassion, he could help guide Burkina Faso toward a brighter future. The next day, as he prepared for another round of meetings with his generals and ministers, Ibrahim reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. The challenges were many, but the rewards were greater than any title or power. He had not only led a nation, but had also embraced the true meaning of leadership: understanding, forgiveness, and connection. In the end, Ibrahim knew that his strength came not from the power he held, but from the people he served, and the choices he made to build bridges, not walls. As he stood before his team, ready to take on the next challenge, he was certain of one thing. Leadership was about more than just making decisions. It was about making a difference. And that, he knew, was what truly mattered.